guys, it's been a while since I've done a Science of Essential Oils video, and I have a few minutes tonight, so I thought I would get on here and spend some time talking to you guys about why using essential oils aromatically is so amazing. So in a previous video, I talked about topical use, and I wanted to give you guys some of the science behind why aromatic use of essential oils is so effective. So, God has gifted us with 5 amazing senses. We can hear and see, touch, taste, and smell. And all of our senses bring such richness to our lives and allow us to experience the world in such a profound way and really help keep us present in the moment and just let us experience a life in a way that would be so much more boring without those amazing senses. So when we use essential oils, you can use them topically, aromatically, or internally, and each of those uses interacts with one of our senses in a different way. So topical use, because we're applying it to the skin, whether it's just using a touch roller or massaging it in, you're going to be interacting with your sense of touch. And when you use essential oils internally, whether that's in an essential oil-based supplement, adding it to your cooking, putting a drop under your tongue, all of those, you're going to be using your sense of taste. And then when we use essential oils aromatically, be that diffusing, wearing diffuser jewelry, smelling it directly out of the bottle, all of those are using your sense of smell. So our senses of smell, a lot of times we think of it as just being kind of weak because it is inferior in a lot of ways to other animals. We are not quite as sensitive. We can't smell things from as great of a distance as a lot of our animal cousins can. But our sense of smell is actually 10,000 times more sensitive than any of our other senses. And there was a recent study done that suggests that the human nose is capable of differentiating up to 1 trillion unique scents, which is pretty amazing. So even our puny sense of smell is just amazing. And it is that sense of smell that allows us to enjoy essential oils aromatically. So essential oils, I've talked about them before as being small, low molecular weight compounds, and those are called constituents. And those constituents are liquid when they're in the bottle, and then when you open it, they rapidly transform from the liquid state to the gaseous state, which we refer to as being highly volatile. And while sometimes the context of volatile means like angry or bad temper, here we mean it in the scientific term of just rapidly changing state. So it goes from liquid to gas really quickly, which is why when you open your essential oil bottle, you very instantaneously smell that beautiful aroma of your oils. And as that happens, the constituents go into the air, into your nose, and they are, from your nose, they go to your brain very quickly. So I'm going to go over that process with you. So, your sense of smell, we can call that smelling or sniffing or whatever term you want to use. The scientific term for that is called olfaction, which you've probably heard terms such as like the olfactory system or the olfactory bulb, and they all have that same root word. So olfaction can happen in 2 different ways. The main way is just your traditional olfaction, which would be smelling through your nose. The other way is those volatile compounds go into the air that goes inside of your mouth, and then as you chew and swallow, the air is forced up through the back of your throat into your nasal cavity. So either way, those compounds are going to be entering the nasal cavity. It's just whether they go through your nose or through your mouth and up through the back door. So once inside your nose, the lining of your nose is lined with a thin layer of mucus. And that mucus serves a couple of functions in your body. First of all, it traps dust and dirt and bugs and whatever things that you might smell that you don't want to get into your lungs, and helps get that out. And then it also serves to dissolve the compounds. So there's a layer in between the air and something called the epithelial, the olfactory epithelium. And that mucus layer dissolves the constituents, and then they enter into the olfactory epithelium. From there, they go through we'll call it a handshake. It's called a synapse. So basically it's like a handshake in between the epithelium and something called the olfactory bulb. But now imagine that this handshake, before they shook hands, they drug their shoes on the carpet while they ran around the room, I don't know if you guys ever did that as kids. We did it all the time in elementary school. But then when you shake hands, you give each other a nice big electrical shock. So it's kind of like that. The constituents bond with receptors in the epithelium, and that creates an electrical signal, which is transmitted in between the epithelium and the olfactory bulb. And that signal is how the body interprets the sensory stimuli. Now, from the olfactory bulb, another signal is transmitted, and it goes to one of two places in the brain. It either goes to your limbic system or your neocortex. The limbic system is what's considered the primitive part of the brain, and that is the part of your brain that's responsible for autonomic responses. So that's anything that you don't have to consciously think about. So breathing, blinking, blood pressure, anything. I don't know why I chose all these, but anything that your body just does because it's a well-oiled machine and it doesn't need you to sit there and go, okay, blink, blink, blink. It just does it for you. That's all done by the limbic system. The neocortex is part of something larger. That's just the cortex, which is the higher functioning part of your brain. So that is the part of your brain that is responsible for conscious thought, executive functions. That is what sets us apart from other animals and makes us have my cats are beating each other up in the background, I'm so sorry, our higher level of thinking. So all of the other senses, the time in between when they are perceived and when they get to the higher level part of your brain takes much longer. Sense of smell is the absolute fastest. There are only two synapses or two handshakes in between reception of stimuli and reaching the higher function. Any of your other senses, say sense of touch, is perceived and then it travels through your body, through your nerves, up your spine, into part of your limbic system called the thalamus. And the thalamus is the part of the limbic system that is sort of the gateway to all of your sensory stimuli except for smell. So the other four senses all have to go through the thalamus before they make it to the higher level of functioning. So while there's only two handshakes in between smell and higher function, there's 4, 6, even more sometimes in between your other senses and higher functioning. So your sense of smell just goes really quick, straight to your brain. So while that's fascinating, what does that mean? So it gets there really fast, and then what does it do? So let's break down the two different types. So limbic, as I mentioned, is your more primitive autonomic side of your brain, and that has 4 parts to it. So we already mentioned thalamus, which is for all of your senses except for smell. Then there's hypothalamus, and that part of your limbic system is really big in controlling all of the autonomic functions in your body. So it helps regulate blood pressure, heart rate, respiratory rate, body temperature. It does things such as secreting specific hormones because it's the link in between your central nervous system and your pituitary gland. So it releases oxytocin, which you've probably heard of that before with like labor and delivery and lactation. It does vasopressin, which is also known as antidiuretic hormone, and that is responsible for helping your kidneys reabsorb water so that you're excreting concentrated urine and helping maintain levels of hydration. It also helps with hunger and thirst and circadian rhythm. So pretty much anything that happens in your body that's part of just the well-oiled machine, that's done by your hypothalamus. Then the other 2 parts of your limbic system are the amygdala and the hippocampus, and those 2 are responsible for memory, learning, and emotion. And injuries to those areas can affect your ability to learn and your ability to form new memories. Damage to the hippocampus results in a condition known as amnesia, which you've probably heard of from cheesy movies, but it's a very serious condition where you not only lose memory, but sometimes you lose the ability to form new memories. And age-related memory loss is believed to be caused by damage to the hippocampus as well. So it's estimated that by the time most humans reach the age of 80, about 20% of the nerve connections in the hippocampus have stopped functioning, which is believed to be the cause of age-related memory loss. So most of you have probably at some point smelled a smell, and it took you instantaneously back to either a memory or a strong emotion. I know there's this one really cheap pear body spray that I used in 7th grade, and I found it at my parents' house, and I smelled it, and it instantaneously took me back to those wonderful middle school awkward years. And it's amazing how our body just knows based on that scent that I hadn't smelled in decades, took me right back to where I was, because the amygdala and the hippocampus are so strongly related to emotion and memory. And so I'm sure you've experienced that before, and if you have, that's an easy way to see how our olfaction affects our brain. But some of the less obvious examples, like how it works with the limbic system, you won't be consciously aware of those changes in your body. But it's pretty crazy that just the sense of smell can do so much in our body. So, unfortunately, there aren't large studies that are essential oil specific, so we can know the exact mechanism of action as to how these constituents affect our brain and our body. But theoretically, knowing how compounds in general affect all these areas of our body, it's pretty easy to see how essential oils could be affecting us in so many ways by just the sense of smell, and just above and beyond absorbing them into our bloodstream and taking them internally. That's how they can affect mood and even things like autonomic function. So there's a little bit of nerdy science for you. 11 minutes. Sorry, it was a long video. But I hope that's a little late night fun for everyone. And if you have any questions, as always, leave them below. So thanks, guys. Have a great night. Bye-bye.